Well, all right, here we are once again. This is Pastor B's kitchen table. You know where I am, and you know who I am. And this is a place where we chop it down, break it up, and put it back together again. You know that all this month we've been dealing with Black family issues. All families have issues, but there are some things that are just pertinent to our demographic. And all this month we've been trying to deal with those. And today I want to deal with one that is so important that impacts all of us for generations now and to come. And that is in the area of education. I want to talk about Black family issues relate to education. And I have two tremendous guests today. I'm going to let you say hello to the kitchen table audience. Tell them who you are and what do you do?
Well, I'm Vicki Kimball. I'm recently appointed the educational chair of the NAACP Missouri City Vicinity Branch, and I'm glad to be on that committee. I have a wonderful committee, and I am a licensed professional therapist, and I have over about 40 years in education as a teacher, a professional aide first, a paraprofessional. Then I went back and I got my BS and I became a teacher. Then I became a school counselor, and then I retired early to go into private practice, but I still work in the educational system as a mental health therapist for our students.
Man, 40 years. Oh my goodness. So you've seen a few things, heard a few things.
A whole lot of things.
Amen. Amen. Doctor, will you introduce yourself, please?
All right. Good evening or good day. And thank you so very much, Pastor Hamilton, for inviting me to be on this podcast. My name is Dr. Carolyn Gadsden Holiday. I am an educator, currently working at a nonprofit here in Houston. I have been an educator for over 30 years, not quite 40 like Vicki, but over 30 years since 1986. I'm an educational consultant. I am the creator of the Culturally Relevant Coaching Framework. I'm an author of the article titled Culturally Relevant Coaching, Empowering New Teachers. I am a person who appears at conferences. I am very dedicated to eradicating racism and inequity in education. And again, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Hey, man. So we have over 70 years of experience here on this one podcast. That is awesome. So let's just jump right into, let's bite the elephant in the room. And that is, what are some key challenges that our Black community is facing right now when it comes to the area of education?
Well, first, I really gave this some thought after I got to know and have shared this information with other friends and educators as well. I feel that the Black family has been traumatized lately. We've already had a lot of trauma in prior history, but especially during the pandemic have made it worse. Poverty, single parenting, all of these cycles that we've been through as a cultural people have affected our educational system, which affects everything. And we're going to get into some more of that. Dr. Holiday, you want to add something to that?
Well, I definitely agree with the idea that you put forth regarding trauma. This year, these past few years, as Vicki said, with the pandemic and just with the overt racism that we've seen in our country, in our state, has really contributed to the trauma that Black people have, are feeling. And, that really trickles down to the education system. One thing that I know is very important to me that's definitely a challenge for us is just the disproportionate way in which our students are disciplined. So this starts in preschool. There was a research study done where teachers were asked, there were preschool kids just playing, and teachers were asked, to identify the preschooler that misbehaved most often. And the teachers predominantly chose a Black child, specifically a Black boy. So this is something that is pervasive in our community and definitely a challenge. And we need to really help teachers to understand, that this inequity really affects and impacts our students. And it really comes down to the idea of implicit bias. So really thinking about the trauma, thinking about that whole idea of implicit bias and just that disproportionate disciplinary rate is something that really affects and challenges our kids right now.
Wow. Is your experience more in elementary, middle school, or high school in the educational system?
Mine is predominantly in elementary school.
Okay.
Well, I've worked in elementary, junior high, high school, and Houston Community College and Lone Star College. So
Okay.
I've had it from K to 12 and beyond.
You've gone the whole gambit. Amen.
The whole gamut.
How do you respond to those who would, from the outside looking in, saying, we're just making excuses?
Well,
first of all, yeah, I read that about 3 times, right?
Yeah.
First of all, research has proven that our kids succeed when they are, I know, primarily see faces of color like us. One of the problems with the discipline, as Dr. Holliday mentioned, is that 6%, we only make up 6% of the teaching body of a public education. Black.
Wait.
American.
Say that again, please. We only make up 6%?
Yes. Most of the education is white women.
Yep. 80% actually of teachers
is white women. And so out of that 6% of African Americans, only 1% are Black male teachers. And I think that is a very, very big problem. So that is some of the reasons why we have a high rate of special ed of African students, right? And that's a big problem. So what the education system does is said, okay, we don't want to show that many Black kids in special ed. So I don't like to use this term dumbed down, but the bottom line is that a lot of our kids that need extra services are overlooked or not caught until they're in the 4th grade. I have 4th and 5th graders are reading on 1st grade level. And there is a direct correlation between struggling readers, illiteracy, and juvenile delinquency. And so if it's 49% of juvenile delinquents are struggling readers, and by the time they get to 2021, they already have a first year in the penal system. Yeah. So we cannot ignore the importance of literacy and teaching and not educating our children, because if that happens, the poverty rate increases, the crime rate increases. What we're seeing now, I mean, we're just running rapid, killing each other, not valuing. And that's another thing I was saying, one of the challenges that we have to go back to valuing who we are as a people. It's not the school system job to teach us who we are. And then they getting ready to take that part out anyway. And you know, they had it that way. So whose responsibility is it? It's us, our community, our churches, our civic grassroots organizations. We are going to have to step up. Nobody's going to save us but us. I still believe that. And we see it now. We see it now.
And I just want to underscore what Vicki said regarding literacy. That is definitely the key. And that's something that historically we know has been denied to us starting in slavery. You know, we were not allowed to learn to read. So that has perpetuated just the issues that we've had, you know, just generationally, kind of starting, almost want to say, behind the 8 ball. So literacy is definitely the key. And as parents, we need to be mindful of making sure that we prepare our students and motivate our students, our children, and help and support our children in terms of literacy. So reading to our kids, having conversations with our children, because we have to remember literacy is about reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So having conversations, using higher level vocabulary, really fostering critical thinking, all of those things are important for us to really lift the level of literacy. And something else that Vicki said about making sure that we know our own history. Like she said, no one is going to save us. We are in charge of making sure that our children really know their history. And right now, with this whole idea around critical race theory and not wanting it, quote unquote, to be taught in schools, it's not taught in schools. It's really, and people, we need to understand what it is. It's really about systemic racism in all areas of our systems, healthcare, education, government. So really understanding what it is and being able to address it by making sure that we help our children know their history. And that is extremely important, and know it from where Blackness is centered, not Eurocentric history where whiteness is centered, but where Blackness is centered. So we really understand where we came from, so we'll know where we're going.
Oh, you got so many doors you just opened, and let me see if I can just track down a couple of those corridors. The first one is you've got parents, grandparents who say, well, we're just trying to scratch out a living. We're trying to hold down these jobs. We drop Johnny or Johnette over to the school, and we expect the school to educate our child. So obviously the school is failing. So you guys are in the system. You know how it works from top to bottom. And I'm sure you've had parents who probably approach it. Some of the parents probably look like us. So what is your reply to that parent who says, it's the school? My job is to get them there, and I got them there. Now, what's coming out of there seems to be incongruent with what they really need for life. What's your reply to that?
I think it's important to
part of me want to sound the alarm. You know, to some parents, I just want to shake them a little bit. Because you had little Johnny. You became the first teacher of little Johnny, or little Susie. I don't want to use that name. Biana. I'm going to change that. You became that parent when you birthed that child. That parents have to go back to taking the basic foundation responsibility of parenting. So little Johnny will have some morals and some values to know, to sit down and to listen. Prepare him to be able to learn before you send him to school. Some of them can go at 3 years old. But we have 3-year and 4-year-olds just running around the campus. Teachers can't do anything with them. There's no consequences. You call the parents a lot of times. They don't answer. You call ID was a big mistake because they don't answer the phone when they see the school number comes up. Getting involved in the child's PTO. When you're there at the school, they have Dollar Trees now, so you can educate little Johnny. If you go in the stores and go to the restaurant in all social economical neighborhoods, you see little Johnny with that tablet. And what is little Johnny watching? Well, they got educational programs that you can have that teach circle time, ABC, World, Mouse, all that. So little Johnny should come to school with some knowledge of letter recognition, if that's what you allowed him to do. But we have allowed also the TV and the laptop. I'm not against technology because it is very good, to become natural babysitters. So there's no communication. There's no dialogue. If you go out to eat, everybody's on the phone. Nobody's talking. No, you don't know about the vocabulary. You don't know about the school of the day. The daddy head down, the mama head down. She on TikTok. Everybody on TikTok, Instagram. We have to stop that. We're gonna have to take time. Yes, I know you might work hours and late, but we used to pull together where we have grandmas and great grandmas and the aunts together. Nurturing. Our kids need basic nurturing that I know that's missing. So when they come to school and they're not taught that, then the teacher has problems. They get signaled out and they can't learn. And then a lot of times they interfere with the teacher has to stop so many times that the rest of the kids not learning.
So in other words, Sister Vicky, you're saying that parents need to be parents.
Yes. And maybe they don't know how. I thought about this. Maybe they don't know how this new X generation, Generation X, and maybe some of the millennials. So maybe we I know they have parenting courses, but how do we get them there? How do we let them sound the alarm to let them know, hey, you don't have to know, but we have professionals, people here that can help you learn how to parent.
Right,
And a lot of
right.
parents, when they get in trouble, they just tell you in 4th and 5th grade, I don't know what to do with it.
Dr. Holliday,
And the
what
school
do you
doesn't know
say?
what to do with it.
Well, I think too that it's important for parents to definitely have an open communication, open lines of communication with the teachers, and definitely to hold teachers accountable for the things that are going on in the classroom. I also think it's important for parents to be knowledgeable about what their children are learning. So ask questions, really look at the curriculum, see if it is centered in, centered on Blackness, and it should be a balance. There should be a balance, definitely. What does the curriculum look like? Are students being read to? And do those things at home as well. Read to your children. And it could, parents do the best they can. I have 4 children of my own. I'm a military spouse. My husband, was in Iraq. I had 4 of my kids at one time, of course, by myself. And I did the best I could. And that's all we need to ask our parents to do. Take some time, read to your child. Reading to a child, it opens up a world for them. It helps their comprehension in terms of building background knowledge. It provides a model as to what good reading looks like. So all of those things, it helps lift vocabulary. Continue to have conversations with your child. And really instill the importance of what education is. But I think it's extremely important to keep those lines of communication open and hold teachers accountable. I was a teacher, I was a classroom teacher, and I really appreciated the parents who did hold me accountable and did, have that those open lines of communication. So that, and remember, the teacher and parent it's a partnership. So really thinking and sitting down and having conversations about what can we do to make sure that, little Brianna is sitting in her seat and engaging in learning. And maybe little Brianna, doesn't like to sit down. That's okay. As long as she's doing what she needs to do, she can stand up. So just be mindful of what the style is of learning for, your own kids.
Right.
So knowing your student and helping the teacher to know that student as well.
Now, there will be a group of parents who are watching this, and they will say that we've chosen not to put our children in the public school system. We put our children in a private school. And not only that, we put our kids in a private suburban school. And so they are once again certainly the minority in that setting. So therefore, the educational level, because the economics have changed. The economics out here where our kids are in school is much higher. So, but what should that parent, what should that Black parent, what should they be mindful of? What cues? If you talked about someone, don't just drop their kids off and then rely on the school to be able to educate them. It's your job. You're the primary educator to begin with. But what about if you're in these suburban settings and you're surrounded not with deficits? You don't need to do fundraisers. You don't need to fundraise. They already had the money. What's your guidance to those parents?
I think it's knowing what your child is learning in school. Know that curriculum. If you have the opportunity to go in and be a parent volunteer so that you can see what is going on in that classroom, and not in the sense of spying on the teacher or anything like that, but just being an involved parent so that you can see exactly what is being taught and how things are being taught. We have to remember that, we really want our teachers to be culturally responsive and culturally relevant. So
I
that
like that.
means
Yeah.
that we need to make sure that the classroom and those teachers are providing windows, mirrors, and sliding doors. Windows where the children can see into other cultures, mirrors, reflections of themselves, what books are being read to the students, what text are they reading, and sliding doors. They want to be able to, engage and learn about other cultures. So really making sure that the classroom is culturally responsive and culturally relevant. But that means knowing and looking at that curriculum. And don't be afraid to ask, hey, what are they learning? What's going on? Well, how can I support you? We want the relationship to be one of support. I want to be able to support that teacher, and I want that teacher to support me. And it also comes down to relationships. Everything really is based on relationships. If you have a good relationship with the teacher that's working with your student, that it just goes, it really helps. It's so important. And ensuring that the teacher also has a good relationship with that student. And that means really knowing that student. I know for me, the teacher I remember the most is the teacher that took the time to get to know who
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was.
That's right.
That
That's
was
right.
one of my, favorite teachers. So just ensuring that those relationships are there, being involved in the school and what's going on, and really knowing what that curriculum looks like.
Man, man, man. Awesome. You mentioned earlier, Ms. Vicky, that there's so few of us as far as in the educational system. I think you said 6% women, 1% men. Where are we? Why are so few of us in the educational system?
Well, teaching is very hard, and it is a hard occupation. And I I feel there has to be a passion for and a love for kids. Also, I know we opened up alternative education and have brought in some wonderful teachers. But again, statistics show between the first to 5 years makes or breaks a teacher. And so we're not seeing the same longevity of 15, 20, 25 years. People are getting in there, and the next, it's so much responsibility. They're dealing with the administration, they're dealing with parents, they're dealing with the behaviors of the kids. And so there's a lot of variables come to play. So there's a lot of turnover. And all over America, we have a shortage of teachers. And especially in our cities. And what they found out was that a lot of the Black males that they do have, when they find out that they have classroom management skills, they move them into a disciplinary role instead of a teacher role. So that kind of, the kids begin to see you differently. Like I'm a counselor and I go in, they say, well, why did you give them a treat? Because he acted bad yesterday. I'm like, that don't have to do with me. You know what I'm saying? The kid have to have a safe haven so they can feel free. And sometimes it's not home, because we know, we ain't even talking about foster kids in the system and our percentage of that. So we know that a lot of homes are not a stable, warm environment for our kids to be nurtured. So school has become a safe haven, should be also. Well, people say, well, we don't have to parent. I'm not your mama. Well, no, but you spending more time with little Johnny than the mama is. You have him from 8 to 3:30, 7 to 3:20. And then he goes home majority of the time to an empty house of older siblings. Then by the time the mama come in, like back now, 6:30, 7 or 8 o'clock, what she feel like doing?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's a single parent home and don't have somebody else that they can rely on. You got your homework done? No, I'm not checking it. Oh, yeah, you got it? Oh, that looks good. All right, take your bath, eat your something, and go to bed. That's a lot that's happening in some of the majority of our urban cities that's there. So
teaching is definitely difficult, and we need to applaud our teachers. We need to support our teachers. We need to really laud our teachers because, like Vicky said, teaching is difficult. And she made a really good point about, especially for our Black male teachers, there's definitely a shortage of Black male teachers because a lot of times, they're just put on that journey of being the disciplinarian, as Vicky
Mm.
said. And that, kind of puts a bad taste in people's mouths. Why would I want to be a teacher if they're going to automatically make me the disciplinarian? So,
Right.
We need to elevate teaching.
Wow.
Teaching is
Wow.
there's an art to it, there's a science to it, and teachers again are hardworking individuals who really, I think all teachers deep down love their students, and sometimes they just don't know how to express it in a way for us it may not look, I don't want to say correct, but
Mm.
it sometimes it's just not expressed in the way that
Yeah, I
it
think
should be.
sometimes it's there. I've seen them.
Mhm.
They're frustrated, right?
Yes,
And when
I
you
Right.
get
think that's really
frustrated,
what it
if you
is.
don't use your calming techniques, you just end up going off.
Yeah.
And they, one of the guys said, they did an initiative in Philadelphia, and he said that we don't, as educators, encourage our young Black boys to
Mhm.
be teachers.
Right.
They're not
Mm.
encouraged to be teachers,
Yeah.
And so maybe we need to start implementing some of that and encouraging them to go into the field, of teaching. And they didn't even
Mhm.
mention the money, because they said,
Oh,
well,
yes.
but because the salary is, fairly decent with two, if maybe you got one or whatever, but they didn't mention the salary is one of the reasons why Black males don't go into teaching. It was
That's an
the other
interesting
reason
point.
that,
That's an
yeah.
interesting point because I've never heard anyone just say that to encourage Black
Mm-hmm.
males to become teachers.
Mhm.
Um,
There's
and
actually a
yeah.
program now. My son, who is a senior in high school, brought home, or it was emailed to us as parents, a program, I believe at Hudson Tillotson up in Austin that
Hmm.
is uh, asking students, Black boys, to apply to become teachers, and
That's
they would get
wonderful.
like a full scholarship. Of course, you have to go
Right.
through the application process, but
Right.
a full scholarship to Hudson Tillotson, and just, and then they would have to, of course, become teachers, and I think teach for a few years afterwards. But and then I know there's a program, I think it was through U of H, called Call Me Mister, and I believe they
Mm.
did a lot of things to encourage students to
Right.
become teachers, or just pursue higher education.
Right. Right.
So, I think definitely the salary piece, just the idea teaching is difficult, especially now during the pandemic, having
Hmm.
to teach virtually. You have, as Vicky said, you have all these factors, you have administrators, of course, holding you accountable. You have parents, of course, who need to hold you accountable. You have all kinds of things going on. So it's definitely a difficult
Yeah.
profession.
That's a balancing act. So many balls
Yes,
you got in the air. One,
exactly.
obviously, this is so deep and so relevant, especially in the times we're in now, that all we've been doing is just kind of unearthing some of the problem. We haven't even gotten to the solution aspect of it yet. So I say that to say that obviously there has to be a part two, because this is just the problem. We've identified, we put it on the table. There's a problem, but I want to spend some time digging a little deeper into these over 70 years of experience and talking about what are some solutions, because there has to be an answer. But before we end this, here's my question for both of you. I think parents need to know just the urgency of the hour. That if our educational system remains as it is right now, write it out for 10, 20 years from now, what would our families look like? Just if we're just following the track, if we don't change anything, just do what we've been doing, what would it look like for the next 10 to 20 years?
Well, we have to, I think, change with the times. We can't, for me, it's about that whole idea of accountability and just making sure that there's a balance, education historically has been centered on whiteness, and we really need to make sure that our stories, our narratives are being told. And I think that is extremely important. We have to understand our history. We have to understand and know just our perspectives. We have to, again, hold the education system accountable for teaching our children. And that is very, very, very important. And again, it comes back to that whole idea of being culturally relevant. Do teachers really understand the students that they're teaching? Are they taking the time to really understand what that whole idea of culturally relevant teaching is, and making sure that they're implementing those strategies that are going to elevate and lift our students?
Amen. Amen. So, Ms. Vicky, you got the last word. Write it out for me. The next 10 or 20 years, what is it going to look like? If we just stay where we are.
Optimistic.
Yeah.
I have faith, and I'm being very hopeful, but I'm also a realistic person. And the question is, if we stay on the road that we're traveling,
Right.
I feel that we will be further behind than we are now, to the point in the next 10 or 20 years, if we don't catch this thing and put some things in place, I believe it's going to be almost too far to come out. I really do. Because like I said, I'm in there every day. I've been on both sides of the fence in both demographic areas. And it's our children that's mostly having a lot of problems.
Okay.
Reading.
That's what I want.
And we're behind. Math, we're behind. The reading is so low that we don't even get a chance. Reading is fundamental. You can't go to any area of career without reading. Like I tell my boys, if you get a contract for basketball or football, you just can't leave it up to your manager or your agent to read it.
Yeah, that's right.
You need to be able to read it.
Yeah,
right.
and understand it. That's
And
and
understand
understand it.
Yeah,
But at the rate we're going now, I mean, we got to sound the alarm.
Amen. That's what I think you're doing tonight. So I want to come back and I want to dig into how do we catch it? How do we make some changes? What does it look like? If it's centered in whiteness, then how do we begin to really put the proper pigmentation into this? What do we need to do? We need some solutions. And I think there are parents that are looking to say, okay, where do I start? You got me. I agree with that. Amen. But now what do we do now? So we're going to come back. We're going to do a part 2. We're going to come back and we're going to deal with this right here at the kitchen table. Kitchen table, you've heard it. You've heard. I want you to tell your mama, your dad, and all the NIMs in your family what you heard today. But you haven't heard it all, because you need to hear this. If we got experience sitting right here in your face telling you, we've been in the foxhole of education. We know what's there. And we know where all of the bombs are. But we also know what the opportunities are. And so we're going to learn together about not what is, but what can we do? Because as Sister said so eloquently, nobody's coming to save us. That's not going to happen. That's the thing that we've got to do. And we got to dig deep, and we got to dig deep together. So I'm going to see you next week right here at the kitchen table. Tell them, come back next Friday. They're talking about something and you need to hear it. So may God bless you. May God keep you. I'll see you next week right here at the kitchen table. Bless you.
Thank you.